Yeah, man, this is sad news, bro, because Big X is definitely like the people's champ right now.
BigXthaPlug has just been hit with a sentence so heavy it's got the streets reeling. On August 21st, the rising rap star was caught up on firearm charges. But make no mistake, it wasn't just the guns that sealed his fate. What really crushed him in court were the deep gang ties prosecutors painted out. Ties that made the judge drop the hammer harder than anyone expected. Let me lay it out.
Yeah, man, this is sad news, bro, because Big X is definitely like the people's champ right now, bro. He's been on a sick run with his album release and those interviews. I've been peeping little snippets and stuff. I've been enjoying the content that he's putting out just over the past couple of years. His songs are going crazy, so.
When the trap caught the trapper, the culture witnessed one of the most devastating L's in recent hip-hop history. Big X wasn't just another artist trying to make a name. He was the certified plug, a rapper who turned his grind in the trenches into platinum plaques, massive streaming numbers, and collabs that had both the trap scene and even parts of the country game under lock. His buzz was undeniable. His rise looked unstoppable. Until Lady Justice stepped in and flipped his whole world upside down. The sentencing came down brutal, a reality check for an artist who was just starting to push past the underground and break into mainstream dominance. Word on the block? This could be the last chapter for one of the realists who ever spit bars from the struggle. Just picture it. You're on top of your game, dropping heat that's climbing charts, streaming numbers looking insane, collabs lining up left and right. And then, in a flash, it's all stripped away in the courtroom. That's the cold reality BigXthaPlug is facing right now, and the streets can't believe it. And then, boom! Out of nowhere.
So all right, like this is where I don't get, right? You BigXthaPlug. This is your album release party, right? You hire security, right? You with the homies, right?
Yeah.
Why nobody take that blower? Right? This is BigXthaPlug.
12 pulls up behind him, red and blues flashing like a death sentence in the rear view. That's how fast BigXthaPlug's night flipped from celebration to devastation. 1 second he's riding clean, vibing after another win, and the next, the boys in blue got him hemmed up for something as petty as a missing front plate near South Great Trinity Forest. But trust, this wasn't no ordinary traffic stop. This was the start of what might go down as the end of a hood legend's legacy. So let's break down exactly what went down that night.
You gotta think though,
27 years old, bro.
You feel me? You in Texas, that shit is normal for you to be able to carry a pole.
So why was he going to jail is the question.
And
they
they
got
see,
the weed.
It's because the
Weed.
weed.
Oh, it's the
See,
weed.
like
Yeah.
where I come
Why
from
the
on the
homie ain't
East
take the
Coast, bro,
weed?
niggas see, but like that's
I like the way
that
you
type of
think,
shit
Ralph.
To me, I think like personally, I think that type of shit is just gonna be a walk off.
No cap, around 8:43 p.m., Pleasant Grove. Big X was rolling his Dodge Ram TRX, fresh out of Williams Chicken. And look, anyone from the trenches knows, when you're carrying that iron and moving heavy, you don't make pit stops at the chicken spot. That's rule number 1. But Big X, riding high off success, got too comfortable.
How is going to jail equivalent to an album rollout, and it really has validity in this world?
Yeah.
Yeah, this. I ain't gonna lie.
Because
Fuck,
people
yeah.
want to see how credible you are for what you talk about, and if you went to
shit.
jail for guns and drugs, like what you
Yeah.
talk about, oh, that BigXthaPlug. Like,
Oh, so like, nah, you for sure went to jail for that.
Yeah,
Now,
like-
now you valid.
He made the kind of rookie mistake that's taken down countless soldiers before him. He forgot that in this game, the second you relax is the second the streets remind you who's really in charge. The officer stepped up to the truck, and this wasn't some random nobody.
Yeah, bro, it's an easy lick for the cops. Let's be real. If he's really in the streets like that, he's associated with some kind of street people. Everybody is being watched. You can't get away with nowadays. We live in a surveillance state, and it was just like, yeah, let's blamp him on the way out. Let's turn these lights on. We got him. You know what I'm saying?
Big X's face has been plastered across every billboard from Oak Cliff to Deep Ellum, his name buzzing loud. The cop knew exactly who he was dealing with. And here's the wildest part. Instead of playing dumb or stalling, Big X kept it 100. He straight up told them about the piece tucked under the armrest. That honesty, it might have been real, but in that moment, it was the move that sealed his fate. This is where the street code collides head-on with legal reality, and the crash is brutal. In the hood, staying strapped isn't a luxury. It's survival mathematics. You move without protection, you're a target. But when you've already made it out, stacked millions, and got everything to lose, that same instinct can flip from protection to destruction in an instant. And for BigXthaPlug, that's exactly what went down. The search that followed cracked everything wide open. Cops pulled 3.4 grams of that sticky icky, and not just one, but 2 burners sitting pretty in the ride. And here's where the story thickens up like Houston syrup. When they ran his name through NCIC, the database didn't just flash his ID. It pulled up a gang flag from Arlington PD.
I want to ask you something. I don't know if you see it. Well, I know you've seen it, man. BigXthaPlug had a mental breakdown online, and he cried.
Well, that's why people don't like me. After they realize they can't play me, then they don't like me. So Big X going with every successful black man got to deal with.
Under Texas law, that gang label meant him carrying heat wasn't just a charge. It was an automatic no-go. The judge didn't care if he was protecting himself, didn't care about fame or charts. That one red flag turned survival into a straight-up felony. And the craziest part? The streets started buzzing instantly.
So what was he crying about, bro? Like, he seemed like somebody on the team did something to him.
I think he feel like finally realized that them around here wasn't one of his partners. You know, they buying watches and big ass chains, and you don't supposed to do that with you can't buy.
People weren't just asking about the charges. They were questioning the choices. Why was Big X even moving like that? When you're pulling Big X numbers, streaming millions, selling out shows and stacking bread, why are you still rolling dirty with the Thule and the Loud? Was it paranoia, loyalty to the code, or was he just too tied to the life to ever truly leave it behind? Either way, that night proved one thing. Success doesn't erase the streets, and the streets don't forgive mistakes. The hood intellectuals were quick to jump in with the real questions. When you at Big X's level, moving with platinum plaques, selling out shows, and able to afford private security, what is the logic in still keeping personal protection that could jeopardize everything? Why risk it all for the same moves you made before the fame? The truth is, success doesn't just erase the mentality that kept you alive in the first place. For someone like Big X, who survived everything the streets threw at him, carrying heat wasn't about clout. It was instinct.
Do you think this, for his brand, what does this do for his brand for them? I think it helps with the women, because they want it. First thing I said, man, Big X broke down, and when my wife say, yeah, but he's showing his emotions. So I think women are like that. But as far as the men, how does this affect his whole brand?
Those survival reflexes don't disappear just because the money gets bigger or the stages get brighter. In his world, being unarmed meant being vulnerable, and no record deal could change the lessons the hood drilled into him. But instincts don't stand up in a courtroom. The booking process put the final nail in the coffin, painting a vivid picture of just how quickly the game can flip on you. At 2:20 a.m. on August 22nd, Big X found himself processed like any other name on the docket, hit with 2 misdemeanor charges: possession of Mary Jane, Class B, and unlawful carrying, Class A. One day he was celebrating platinum status, the next he was staring at county walls. From flashing lights and sold-out shows to counting tiles on the cell floor, BigXthaPlug's story became the American trap dream turned nightmare. A harsh reminder that fame doesn't shield you when the system decides to lock you down. But let us be real, this wasn't Big X's first rodeo with the boys in blue. 2025 had already been rough, and this marked his second run-in with the law that year. Back in February, he got hit in Arlington for almost the exact same type of charges, 2 busts in less than 12 months. That's not just bad luck, that's a pattern. And patterns are exactly what prosecutors live for. Every new arrest stacked neatly on top of the last one, building a storyline that painted Big X not as an unlucky artist, but as a repeat offender. That's the type of narrative that makes defense attorneys lose sleep. His lawyer, Valerie Baston, tried to come out swinging, but even her words showed the pressure cooker her client was in. She told the press, "We're going to wait to see the affidavit. but we're going to work vigorously for our client because it just is what it is. It's 2 misdemeanors, and people are trying to make it a felony. That's damage control in lawyer language, but between the lines it screamed one thing. They knew the walls were closing in. Because let us be honest, when your own legal team is stressing that these are just misdemeanors, it means the other side is already pushing for more. Prosecutors were gunning to elevate this into a bigger case, and the streets knew it. The ripple effects hit the industry instantly. Plans for Big X's Wingstop release party got scrapped before the ink even dried on the flyers. Sponsors pulled out, venues went quiet, and the buzz around his platinum run shifted into whispers about whether he'd even be around to enjoy it.
Yo, when you have a name like BigXthaPlug and people know you for being a bigger guy, does your health or ever trying to maybe lose weight? Because Jelly Roll goes through this, and Jelly's currently trying to.
It was like watching a house party get shut down mid-turn-up. 1 second the vibe was lit, the next it was dead silent. Corporate sponsors don't play when legal drama starts staining the headlines. They'll vanish quicker than an ex the moment she sees you posting another girl on your story. And that's exactly what happened here. Once Big X's name was tied to charges and court dates, companies started ghosting with zero hesitation. To them, controversy isn't street cred, it's liability. But Big X, true to that hustler DNA, refused to let the moment break him. Instead, he tried to flip the narrative like a trap phone that just got too hot. When he walked out of that county building, reporters were already lined up, waiting for some kind of reaction. And Big X kept it cool. No tears, no long statements, just pure focus on the music. He told the cameras he only wanted to talk about his album, as if courtrooms and sentencing weren't even part of the script. And then came the social media flex that sent timelines buzzing. Hours after his release, Big X jumped online, flashing his receipts. 6 plaques, 3 gold, 3 platinum. That post turned heads instantly. To some, it looked like genius-level marketing, turning a humiliating arrest into free promo, keeping the spotlight on his success instead of his charges. To others, it felt like pure denial, a man disconnecting from the reality of his situation while the feds circled closer every day. Either way, one fact is undeniable. BigXthaPlug managed to turn the lowest moment of his career into the most talked-about flex of the week. And that move alone has the culture asking, is this the grind of a visionary, or the downfall of an artist too deep in denial to see the storm closing in? The timing of all this couldn't have been more brutal. BigXthaPlug wasn't just another street rapper trying to get his buzz up. He was in the middle of his big transition, moving from hood hero to mainstream mogul. His album, I Hope You're Happy, was his boldest move yet, produced out in Nashville and blending trap sensibilities with country soul. This wasn't some throwaway street tape. This was his crossover ticket, the kind of project that could have landed him in suburban living rooms and playlists that would never normally bump trap. But instead of headlines about the music, all that potential got drowned out by mugshots, charges, and courtroom drama. And here's where the bigger picture comes in. Understanding Big X's legal struggles means understanding how the system operates, especially in Texas. His rap sheet already had priors, arrests dating back to 2022 for similar charges. To law enforcement, that wasn't coincidence, that was leverage. Once your name is flagged in their system, every traffic stop turns into a fishing expedition. Every minor interaction becomes an excuse to dig, to search, to stack charges on your jacket until your past becomes the weight that crushes your future. The arrest may have dominated headlines, but the deeper story is about more than paperwork. It's about the psychological weight Big X has been carrying, the pressure of rising fame clashing with the paranoia of knowing the system never stops watching. And ironically, that same raw authenticity, the honesty about his life, his flaws, his hood instincts, is what made him connect with millions of fans in the first place. The struggle was his superpower. But now, that struggle is also what the courts are using to pin him down. But with all that success also came cracks that made BigXthaPlug vulnerable to pressures most people could never handle. And in 2025, those cracks split wide open in a way that shook the entire hip-hop community. When keeping it real collides with the weight of the spotlight, the results can be devastating. The first major red flag came in February 2025, when Big X had what can only be described as a full-on mental breakdown, and it played out live on Instagram for the whole world to see. This wasn't just another moody live stream or typical rapper rant. This was raw, unfiltered, and heartbreaking. A grown man breaking down under the kind of pressure suburban kids scrolling on their phones could never even imagine. The footage showed Big X in tears, venting frustrations, showing vulnerability that hip-hop rarely lets its stars reveal in public. It was not about clout or trolling. It was the sound of someone crumbling under a weight he couldn't carry anymore. And the breakdown didn't come out of nowhere. It was the collision of multiple forces pressing on him all at once. Sudden fame hitting like a freight train, the responsibility of being the breadwinner for family and friends, the endless criticism that comes with public life, and the added weight of having to represent for his city every time he stepped on a stage. All of that pressure stacked up like bricks, pressing on his mental state with the force of hydraulics. For fans, that live stream wasn't just shocking. It was a chilling glimpse into the human cost of success. Behind the plaques, the streams, and the headlines was a man under siege, fighting demons the culture never gave him room to talk about. Press Rainwater, a figure close to Big X, who knows how the streets and the industry collide, pulled the curtain back on what was really happening behind the scenes. According to him, those tears on Instagram weren't triggered by one single moment. They were the eruption of years of pressure, betrayal, and exhaustion piling up. Big X's openness about his depression and how his project Take Care became his lifeline revealed just how close to the edge he truly was. That album wasn't just music, it was therapy in real time, a warning that his mental state was slipping fast. But Rainwater's insight made something else clear. Success had put Big X in a lonely, dangerous position. When you start stacking serious paper, whether it's through music or through the grind, suddenly everybody wants a slice. Friends, family, hangers-on, even people who barely knew you yesterday start showing up with their hands out. And the cruel, not everybody screaming loyalty actually rides with you when the pressure hits. For Big X, the bigger the bag got, the clearer it became who was really down and who was just there for the benefits. That sense of betrayal and isolation ate away at him. These weren't just personal demons. They were directly influencing his judgment and the choices that landed him back in court. When you're weighed down by depression, anxiety, and the responsibility of carrying entire families and crews on your back, decision-making becomes cloudy. It's like trying to navigate while hotboxing in a locked suburban garage. Everything fogged up, vision blurred, the air thinning, and no clear way out. And in Big X's case, those blurred decisions weren't just affecting his career. They were threatening to undo everything he'd built, turning his rise into the very trap he thought he'd escaped. For BigXthaPlug, even the simplest choices started to feel like life or death calculations. What might look like an easy decision from the outside became twisted and complicated under the weight he carried. And the complicated decisions? Those had the potential to blow up his entire world. His philosophy, his way of thinking, revealed just how deep his internal battle ran. The same trap mentality that gave him strength, that sharpened survival instinct and loyalty code, also doubled as his greatest weakness. Big X was caught in a tug-of-war between loyalty and self-preservation. On one hand, he wanted to stay true to the people who knew him before the fame, the ones who held him down in the trenches. On the other hand, he knew some of those same people might not have his best interests at heart and could drag him down faster than the system itself. That conflict wasn't theoretical. It was eating him alive every single day. Fatherhood piled on another layer of weight that most outsiders couldn't begin to understand. Big X opened up about raising his autistic son, revealing the guilt and heartbreak of trying to juggle it all. The pressures of being a provider, a role model, and a present father collided with the reality of his own mental health struggles. Missing milestones while on tour, combined with the constant fear of not being able to secure the specialized care his son needed, created a storm of anxiety and depression that no plaque or paycheck could fix. Reality? When Big X let those emotions spill into the public, the reactions were polarizing. Some fans praised his openness, calling his vulnerability a rare show of strength and authenticity in hip-hop. But others, trapped in toxic expectations of masculinity, labeled it weakness, instability, even a liability. That split in public opinion didn't ease the burden. It only pressed him harder, forcing him to carry not just his own demons, but the judgment of an entire culture that still doesn't know how to treat black male mental health with compassion. In hip-hop, where hypermasculinity is often treated like currency, showing genuine emotion can be a double-edged sword. Liberating on one side, career-damaging on the other. For BigXthaPlug, the choice to be open wasn't just about baring his soul, it was about survival. But the irony? That same honesty that made him relatable to fans also left him exposed to critics who saw it as weakness. And while the culture debated his tears, the business side of his empire was eating him alive. Big X wasn't just a rapper. He was trying to build his own record label while still maintaining his momentum as an active artist. That meant every single decision, from scouting new talent to managing current signees, all while pushing his own music out, came down on his shoulders. For suburban kids watching from the outside, it might have looked like a dream. But in reality, every win in one lane risked failure in another, and the weight of balancing it all was crushing him piece by piece. Observers couldn't even agree on what they were seeing. Some industry voices claimed his emotional transparency was strategic, a calculated move to connect with fans through relatability. Others insisted it was raw, genuine pain spilling out in ways he couldn't control. The truth? It was probably both. Big X was a man wrestling with real demons, but he was also sharp enough to understand that vulnerability speaks to fans who are fighting their own private wars. And to make things worse, physical health concerns started stacking on top of his mental struggles. He spoke openly about weight issues and lifestyle choices, details that the average listener might overlook, but ones that revealed just how deeply stress was eating at him from the inside out. The body and the mind were both taking hits, and the combination was becoming harder for him to hide. BigXthaPlug's story showed a man who knew his own mortality, but struggled to make the changes that could extend his life. Longevity wasn't lost on him. He talked about it, he hinted at it. But when you're battling depression, anxiety, and the non-stop weight of expectation, even the simplest health shifts can feel impossible. Add the pressure of a public image on top of that, and you've got a cycle that chews people up and spits them out. For Big X, that cycle was on full display for the whole world to see. His decision to go public with his pain was both courageous and risky. Courageous because it cracked the stigma of mental health in hip-hop, a culture that often treats vulnerability like weakness. Big X gave fans permission to admit their own battles, to see strength in honesty. But at the same time, it was risky because it gave critics fuel. Every tear, every open confession became evidence for people ready to question his stability and decision-making. And in courtrooms and contracts, that kind of narrative cuts deep. The skepticism hurt the most. When you're genuinely struggling but people accuse you of performing pain for sympathy or streams, it's like another betrayal stacked on top of the ones you're already living with. For someone like Big X, who was already dealing with trust issues and feeling let down by people in his circle, the public doubt only added more isolation. Imagine carrying that weight, your fans, your city, your family, only to have strangers online dissecting whether your suffering is real or fake. And that's the trap inside the trap. When mental health struggles collide with legal trouble, the cycle becomes almost impossible to break. Every arrest feeds the critics, every confession fuels speculation, and the line between survival and self-destruction gets thinner by the day. Poor mental health feeds bad decisions. Bad decisions trigger legal problems, and those legal problems fuel even more stress that tears the mind apart. It's a vicious cycle, and BigXthaPlug was caught right in the middle of it. Every arrest didn't just hit his record, it deepened his depression, and every depressive spiral increased the chance of him making choices from a place of pain instead of clarity, pulling him further into patterns that felt impossible to escape. To really understand how someone with so much talent, momentum, and potential ended up facing serious charges, you have to look past the mugshots. This wasn't just about reckless behavior or ignorance of the law. This was about a young man trying to shoulder pressures that were slowly crushing his spirit. Decisions weren't being made with strategy. They were being made under emotional exhaustion, under anxiety, under a sense of betrayal, and under the weight of responsibility that most people couldn't handle for a single day. The tragic irony is how his transparency played against him. His openness about depression and anxiety should have been celebrated as a sign of maturity, of growth, of a rapper willing to break toxic stigmas in hip-hop. Instead, that same openness became twisted into ammunition. Prosecutors, critics, and even parts of the culture began using his vulnerability as evidence, painting him not as an artist in need of support, but as unstable, unpredictable, and potentially dangerous. That perception matters. Because when it comes to sentencing, authenticity doesn't always save you. Sometimes showing the realest parts of yourself only gives the system more reasons to treat you like a threat instead of someone deserving of help and understanding. And for Big X, that cruel twist of fate may have sealed his downfall before the judge even opened their mouth. BigXthaPlug's suburban dream was peaking just as reality came crashing down. At the exact moment he reached the highest point of his career, touching clouds that most trap artists never even get close to. The consequences of past decisions came storming back like karma with flashing lights. His rise was legendary, but his downfall, even harder. It's the cruel paradox of hood success. The higher you climb, the heavier the fall. And when you hit the ground, everything you built starts crumbling in slow motion. But before the system yanked the mic out of his hands, let's break down what Big X had actually accomplished, because the numbers don't lie. His album Take Care didn't just chart, it went platinum, moving over 1 million copies without a major label machine behind him. That's not industry hype, that's pure independent hustle, the kind of stats rappers with full corporate backing still struggle to touch. He did it off grit, off raw authenticity, and off a fan base that saw themselves in his story. And that success wasn't just commercial, it was cultural. Big X wasn't boxed into one lane. His music hit everywhere. Trap houses in Dallas were bumping him the same way suburban households in Nashville were streaming his crossover tracks. He bridged a divide that few rappers ever dream of, connecting the hood's pain with mainstream ears in a way that was powerful and undeniable. That's why the sentencing hit so much harder. This wasn't just the loss of another artist with a couple mixtapes. This was the collapse of a movement that had been building brick by brick one of the most authentic trap-to-mainstream transitions hip-hop had seen in years. The streaming numbers tell the story better than words ever could. BigXthaPlug wasn't just buzzing locally, he was moving on a national level. His single Texas went RIAA Gold, cementing his status as a certified hitmaker, while climbed all the way to number 65 on the Billboard Hot 100. Those weren't just chart placements. They were proof that a young king from Dallas could go toe-to-toe with anyone in the industry, on any stage, at any level. And what made it even more powerful was the independence. No big label machine, no bloated marketing budget, no carefully engineered industry rollout. Just grind, consistency, and music that spoke to both the trap and the mainstream. Big X achieved milestones that plenty of artists with deep industry connections and millions in backing couldn't touch. That was his genius. He built his empire brick by brick, straight from the trenches. But that's also what makes the fall sting so much harder. Just when it looked like he was destined to be Dallas's biggest export since post-Screw Legends, the legal system slammed the brakes on his momentum. The same story we've seen too many times. An artist with the world in his hands, suddenly watching it all slip through his fingers. And now, the question hangs heavy. Is this the tragic end of BigXthaPlug's rise, or just another brutal chapter in a redemption arc the streets will never forget? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you want more breakdowns like this, don't forget to hit that next video on your screen.